Putin of Russia is still trying to save Ukraine. Discussions continue in Europe and in Kiev about sending Western troops to Ukraine in a way that suggests the issue is almost decided, although everyone understands that no one in Europe or Britain will dare to send forces without American guarantees, which Washington has already denied many times. However, Zelensky pretends that everything is under control and has already announced that a meeting will be held in Kiev with representatives of Britain and France, who will be 100%, he says, ready to send troops to Ukraine. At the same time, he assures the Americans that he's ready for negotiations with Russia, but without forgetting to clarify that this does not include President Putin, who, in his opinion, is afraid of the former actor. Zelensky does not want to talk to him, and this is mutual. Putin, however, does not want to talk only to Zelensky. He does not see any reliable political figure in Ukraine with whom an agreement could be reached. But to reach peace agreements, interlocutors are needed, and where will they come from? During his visit to the nuclear submarine Arkhangelsk, Putin presented an unprecedented, unexpected initiative on this issue. First, he recalled that in Ukraine there is no one to negotiate with and conclude agreements with. The president is illegitimate, and tomorrow, quote unquote, other leaders will come who will have gone through elections and will say, who signed what? We don't know. Goodbye. And in addition, the influence of armed radical forces is growing. Neo-Nazi organizations such as the Azov, and there are others as well, are essentially starting to rule the country, and the question arises, how can one negotiate with them? What is the solution then? Russia, of course, wants to negotiate with the US about Ukraine, and Putin said that Trump has a sincere desire to end the conflict. However, it's clear that any ceasefire or peace agreement depends on Ukraine, that is, from its government, which Russia not only does not trust, but considers a real threat that power in Ukraine may pass into the hands of armed radical groups. This scenario is more realistic than it seems. For example, after the signing of the permanent ceasefire on terms unfavorable for Ukraine, and any terms that do not include the return of lost territories and Western security guarantees will be considered unfavorable, disgruntled military personnel may march towards Kiev. Will Zelensky be able to withstand such a situation? At the same time, no favorable deal, quote unquote, is now possible for Ukraine. Russia simply will not accept any form of Western control over a neighboring state. But neither is the West, for the time being, ready to agree to Ukraine's integration into Russian sphere of influence, which will inevitably happen if Western support is withdrawn. Thus, both sides already treat Ukraine as a non-independent entity, and neither is prepared to back down. Under these circumstances, Putin proposes introducing external administration in Ukraine. In such cases, international practice follows a well-known path. Within the framework of UN peacekeeping missions, there have been cases of external administration and interim governance. This happened in East Timor in 1999, in some regions of the former Yugoslavia, and in New Guinea. Therefore, under the auspices of the United Nations, with the United States, and even with European countries as well as with other partners and friends, we could discuss the possibility of introducing interim governance in Ukraine. For what purpose? To hold democratic elections, to bring to power a functioning and credible government, and then to begin negotiations on a peace agreement that would be signed by a legitimate government and recognized internationally. What does Putin propose? To recognize Ukraine as a failed state with illegitimate leadership and dangerous prospects, including from its neighbors, to introduce external administration under the auspices of the United Nations in order to prepare and hold elections for a new government. And with this new government, Russia will sign a peace agreement. Is this a difficult task? Yes, but only within the framework of the idea that Ukraine belongs to Europe. Once this illusion, which caused the war, is definitively abandoned by the West, which is already happening in the US, though not yet in Europe, the situation will become much simpler. Ukraine is a failed state, a random state, part of Russia which was attempted to be turned into an anti-Russia. Russia will not allow itself to be integrated into the West, nor to be turned into an anti-Russia. It will prevent this by any means, military, diplomatic, or a combination of both. That is, today's Ukraine will not continue to exist. The proposal to create a new Ukraine under international control is an alternative to its complete disappearance, which could happen through military defeat and collapse. If this does not happen, the only other solution will be its division, which can be achieved even peacefully. And as Putin told the submariners, we support the peaceful resolution of conflicts, but not at our expense. This is by Peter Akopov. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.